Kia ora and welcome everyone. This is Recycling Week 2024 and this is day one of our webinar series. It's so exciting to have our webinar series back on for another year, and we have an amazing lineup of speakers starting with today. I'm Nat, I'm going to be your host for today. So welcome to Procurement Monday. This is the day one focus, and today's aim is for us to only purchase things that can be recycled, reused, repaired or repurposed. Because when we buy a product, we also buy any waste associated with it as well. So the more we can avoid, the better we are. Today's daily focus is brought to us by Reclaim Consulting. Reclaim Consulting is serious about helping businesses achieve greater waste minimizations through strategy, auditing, education, consulting, etc. So for the lineup today, I am so excited to be joined by two awesome companies. Consumer NZ and Eco Choice Aotearoa will be joined by Jessica and Laura, and I'll let them introduce themselves and their companies because I can't do it justice. But one of the things I can say is that both of these companies have been around for a long time, advocating for better, making choices for consumers easier and better, whether it is from a sustainable, from a quality, or so on. So with that, I shall leave it to Jessica. Over to you, Jessica.
Okay, so I am Jessica Walker. I am the Communications and Campaigns Manager at Consumer New Zealand. We are the independent voice champions and empowers New Zealand consumers. We've been around 65 years this December, so we've been going quite a long time. Today, I'm going to talk to you about what we know about consumers' attitudes to sustainability, and also what we know about greenwashing, misleading green claims, and also repairability in New Zealand and overseas. So what do New Zealanders know and expect when it comes to sustainability communication? So we know that 90% of New Zealanders are mindful about where they spend their money, and about half of shoppers would change brands if they think that an alternative brand's products or services are more sustainable. What we think is really interesting is that most people assume that claims are being verified or substantiated, and they put a great deal of importance on this. But when these claims are false or when people are not too sure about the accuracy, 96% of New Zealanders don't know where to report claims that they believe to be false or misleading. Now, we think that these statistics go a really long way to proving that New Zealanders trust climate conscious messaging. They think, and why wouldn't they, that somebody somewhere is verifying claims and certifications to make sure that they're not misleading. Now, we're concerned about climate conscious messaging and sustainability claims being used by businesses to drive up sales without doing the due diligence or ensuring that any claims that they're making are substantiated. Now, where a business is doing the groundwork, so the claims that they make on the packet and advertising is true, obviously that's a great thing. But what we found time and time again is that is not always the case, and that is in fact greenwashing. So one of our headline advocacy campaigns has an aspirational aim of stopping greenwashing in New Zealand. We know that industry-wide sweeps have been undertaken in the UK, the EU and Australia. And what they found there, the regulators, is that about 40 to 50% of claims on advertising, on packaging, is in fact misleading. And as a result, laws are being brought in there to protect their citizens from overzealous green claims. Now, we haven't had an industry-wide sweep here, so we wanted to conduct our own spot check to get an idea of the scale of greenwashing on New Zealand's shelves. So our research team has spent a lot of time investigating claims on packaging and on advertising. They began with products in the grocery store, so in supermarkets, and then they delved a little bit more deeply into health and beauty products. So I'll just talk you through what we found with these products on the top. So these really fruity nuggets that you'll see in the top corner there, those packets that you can't add words stamped on there were now in paper pouches, all good. So when our investigator did a bit of digging into this, she actually found that they contained 35% CPP, which is a type of plastic. So we called this packaging out as misleading. We said, how can you claim to be all good in paper pouches when in reality a third of the packet is made of plastic? To be fair, the company did agree to remove that statement from the packaging, but it just goes to show that it can be really hard to determine that what you're reading is in fact truthful. These plastic bags that you can see in the second row there, they're glad to be green. Now, it's quite clear they're 50% ocean plastic recycled bags. We think this would lead many people to believe that plastic was actually retrieved from the ocean. But if you do look closer, you'll see that plastic is collected from within 50 kilometres of the shoreline of the ocean in communities with no formal waste arrangements. Now, we thought this risked misleading shoppers, but in Australia, the regulator there went one step further, and they announced in April that they're going to take the manufacturer to court because they believe that this packaging could create in the eyes of Australians. We haven't had that same response to complaints about the product here. And finally, on the top line, you can see the Dilmah tea bags. Now, these were labelled as biodegradable, industrially compostable, and carbon neutral. The carbon neutral claims did in fact check out, but the other claims didn't. There are so few industrially compostable facilities in New Zealand that it is really hard to actually do what it says on the packet, if you like. To give Dilmah the due, we did raise these concerns with them, and they did take that point off their packaging once we brought it to their attention. Just quickly touch upon these beauty products on the bottom line here. What have we got? A shower gel, a face cleaner, and some cleansing wipes. So all of these products contained words like natural or eco-friendly or care for your skin and the planet. But we found these claims to be meaningless, with little or nothing to back them up. They were merely products that create a green halo effect. So we have another advocacy campaign at Consumer New Zealand, our Right to Repair campaign, and this aims to tackle the growing mountain of e-waste in New Zealand. Now, we throw away more e-waste than almost any other country in the OECD. It works out to be about 20 kilograms of e-waste per person, which is equivalent to 97,000 tonnes. Now, if you want to try and picture what 97,000 tonnes of e-waste looks like, it's enough broken toasters to fill Eden Park and reach the top of the Sky Tower each year. Now, we think it's time to do something to protect our planet and our pockets from this growing obsolescence. There are no repairability rules or regulations to stop faulty products here heading to landfill. So what you can see on this slide here is 3 of our team members with the Green Party MP, Ricardo Menendez March. And this was in August, we handed over our Right to Repair petition to politicians. It was signed by 21,000 New Zealanders calling for a repairability label. Now, if we got a repairability label, we would be able to shop for devices or appliances knowing how far they would go, so how long we could expect them to last us. It would enable shoppers to make a conscious decision based on how long a product would last or how repairable it is. So they've already got this system rolled out in France. Shoppers there see a rating system similar to what we see now with energy efficiency labels, energy star ratings, sorry. At the same time, there's a Right to Repair amendment bill that's recently been pulled from the members' bill ballot over in the Beehive, and that seeks to address the loophole in the Consumer Guarantees Act, which allows manufacturers here to opt out of offering spare parts. So although we should be able to get products that are repairable, a manufacturer can bury a little bit of information in the back page of their product manual that says spare parts are not available, and then they can get away with providing products that can't be repaired. So we think that introducing repairability labels and also passing this Right to Repair amendment bill would be a comprehensive approach to tackling this mess that we're in right now. So to summarise, what do we want when we're talking about our greenwashing and our Right to Repair campaign? Well, we want a repairability label so that we have a score telling us how repairable a product is, how widely available repair documentation is, and then also we want an idea of how affordable it would be to repair a particular product. We really want MPs to get behind that Right to Repair amendment bill, because that would allow for the independent repair of products and goods and make it mandatory for products to be repairable. So that would mean that we could have access to the spare parts and to people that could repair the products quickly and affordably. we know that this is something that could be enabled by the bill, the ability to repair products quickly and easily and cost effectively, because right now many of you will have had an experience where perhaps the screen is broken and it would cost you more to get the screen repaired than it would to go out and buy a new device. And you know, that's just symptomatic of the problem that we're in right now. We want meaningless green claims to be banned. It's happened in the EU and we believe it could happen here. We want products to be vetted for greenwashing before they hit our shelves. And would also really love to see the Commerce Commission start to hold some of these greenwashers to account. So what can you do? So you can look out for greenwashing's telltale signs. And if you're not sure, you can report it. So things we say to look out for is, does it look eco-friendly? And by that we mean, is it brown cardboard? Are there lots of images of nature? Does it have a certification that you haven't actually seen anywhere else? Does it have a sustainable feature, but in reality, it's just single use? So although there could be a green halo, it's still really bad for the environment. With meaningless terms, green, natural, eco, even biodegradable, look out for these words and know that most of the time they mean nothing. Also look out for pointless free from claims, and these can be harder to spot. But for example, your dishwashing detergent might boast that it's phosphate free, but dishwasher detergents no longer contain phosphates, so the product is claiming to be more virtuous than it really is. If you think a product is greenwashing, then tell us, a consumer. We're really keen to know, and when we hear examples, we consolidate all that information and find out where there is something that we could really be getting our teeth into, investigating further. We keep a record of all our complaints, and then we decide once we've got a whole heap what we're going to dig into further. You can and you should complain to the Commerce Commission too. They're responsible for ensuring businesses don't mislead shoppers. And then finally, what can you do about exercising your right to repair? One thing you could all do today, and we would really urge you to do, is to email your Member of Parliament and tell them that you support the Right to Repair Amendment Bill. Your MP represents you, and they are the ones who have got the power to get this amendment bill passed into legislation, because we know without enough political support, this is something that's going to fall at the first hurdle. When you go shopping for a new appliance, although right now we don't have repairability labels, you can still ask the store how repairable different products are, and hopefully sometimes they will be able to give you some indication. If you're a consumer member, you can head to our product information pages. We've got product repairability scores on some items now. So for example, mobile phones, we score out of 100 for how repairable they are, and that helps you to make an informed choice. Finally, you can learn your rights under the Consumer Guarantees Act, because there can be situations where you can request a repair rather than a replacement or a refund, and that can go some way to reducing the mountains of e-waste that we're currently experiencing. That's it from me. Final slide. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Jessica. In the essence of time, we'll just quickly rush through to Laura. But if you do have a question for Jessica, make sure you pop it in the chat so we can answer in the Q&A later. And Laura, you're up next.
Kia ora, everyone. My apologies for the mood lighting. It is very early in the morning where I am, and conveniently I'm also next to a bus station, so there might be some horns tooting in the background. Thank you so much for having us, Reclaim, and consumer is always a hard act to follow. Thanks so much, Jessica, for your presentation as well. There's quite a few triggering examples of greenwashing there. I guess Eco Choice Aotearoa, we've been around for 30 years. We're trademarked by the Ministry for the Environment, but we're an independent charity. And I'd like to think that we're kind of I guess one of the antidotes to greenwashing. I guess the important thing to point out is that we are voluntary though. So we might not be everyone's cup of tea, and they might not be up for the challenge. Sustainable procurement is the reason that I am up this morning. I am extremely passionate about this, and obviously consumer has tackled this from an everyday person's perspective. I guess I'm going to talk a little bit more from the business and government perspective. So Natalie, if you don't mind, I think I probably already shot through a couple of my slides. that's just a little bit more about us. And if you keep going for me, please. There we go. Excellent. So sustainable procurement, as I think Jessica has already touched on, it's essentially, I guess, buying stuff and only stuff you need that has less impact on the planet. And I kind of like to think of it as a low-key superhero, because it has the power to create so much impact. So I am a bit of a sustainable development goals nerd, and it just so happens that sustainable procurement has its own SDG 12.7 to be precise, some details there. And the reason that the UN and others have really heralded sustainable procurement as such a great tool is the fact that it underpins so many other goals. This is just an example of some of the other ones that it can feed into. So I guess, the big thing for us is that we have seen that it really puts, if you're a procurer from a business or a government and you put that in your tender, you have some details around sustainability or targets, it really puts pressure on, I suppose, suppliers or manufacturers to up their game, to adopt more sustainable operations, and it also helps scale green innovators. So if you're someone who's doing something better but you're teeny tiny, if you get your hands on a decent contract, that can really suddenly propel you into a space where you can take on the big guys, and that is certainly my favorite thing to see. This is just a terrible page of clip art of all of the things that you can potentially procure. I think sometimes people think of them as being huge, big objects, but it's everything from your toilet paper to your cleaning products to your electronics and those sorts of things. And I guess I'd really quickly say we have a product finder on our website to help you find the things that you need for procurement purposes. And we're really excitingly going to be adding IT equipment soon, thanks to our partners TCO Development, which is sort of an international certification for ICT equipment. So we're really excited about that. Anyone who would like our label as part of that deal will have to show us really strong product stewardship in country. So this is just, again, going through some of the benefits of sustainable procurement, and obviously there's a huge amount. There's obviously environmental benefits. There's some real social benefits as well. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a chest infection. There's some economic benefits there. We have seen examples from different countries who have used sustainable procurement as part of their nationally determined contributions. So South Korea is one of them. They did a study with the UN Environment Programme back in 2017 to see what the impact of sustainable procurement was. And just to be clear, they use sustainable procurement and the government uses its own eco label to help with that. And they found that they had reduced emissions by about 650,000 tonnes. They'd saved $60 million US purely by buying more efficient, durable, repairable products. And they also generated about 4,500 green jobs, which is just incredibly exciting. And then there's some overall business benefits as well, and linking it to your ESG goals and things like that. So earlier this year, we partnered with the Procurement Excellence Forum. They're an awesome group. If there's any procurers on this call who aren't part of that network, they're really keen to upskill everyone, and just a bunch of terrific individuals from places like government departments, but also corporations and so on. And we worked with them on a sustainable procurement toolkit. So the idea was that it would make sustainable procurement, take some of the hard work out of it for people. And this is I'm new to this, but this is what a number of people refer to as the magic procurement wheel. And essentially the toolkit will take you through every stage of this procurement process, giving you tips and tricks to make better decisions along the way. I guess the thing about the toolkit and about sustainable procurement in general is, I guess, the case studies, the impact stories. That's the thing that really resonates with me. So I thought I'd very quickly share a few of those today. I know we're a bit short on time, so I'll race through. So some of you might have heard of the company, or social enterprise, I should say, Will Enable. So they manufacture cleaning products in New Zealand, but they also employ many disabled workers on their production line who would otherwise really struggle to find jobs. So not only are their products environmentally preferable, so they don't contain any unnecessary chemicals, they do a lot of other really cool stuff, like they have a new bottle return scheme and things like that, because we don't seem to have one of those in New Zealand. So businesses are taking this upon themselves. The reason that I've chosen them as a procurement case study is they, like a lot of different organisations over COVID, were really hit quite hard. And unfortunately, they had to let some of their staff go, which was, I suppose, twice as heartbreaking, because those people would have, a more difficult time finding new jobs. So earlier this year, Corrections actually awarded a procurement contract for all of their prisons up and down the country for will enable cleaning products. And the impact that has had is meant that Will Enable has been able to hire more people, which is just really exciting. But also, when we think about the impact on the environment as well, we don't have harmful chemicals, going down the sink and so on. So it's a real sort of double win as far as we're concerned for people and the planet. And the second one I want to talk about is a really cool business that we work with called Critical. So they essentially get post-consumer plastic and fishing nets and things like that, and they turn them into these amazing, like, beautiful panels that many of them have sort of a terrazzo look to them. They're gorgeous, and they are super versatile. So one application of them has been that Aotearoa High School replaced their desktops with Critical panels late last year. The reason they did that is, if you kind of remember when you're back at school, and they used to have that MDF stuff on top, and it's not very hard wearing. It chips if it gets any moisture in it. It's super gross, and you need to sort of chuck it out. And historically, what has happened, and my mind was blown by this, is that the entire unit, including those steel legs, the whole thing is thrown into landfill. So the cool thing with this is they've just replaced the tops, they've kept the legs, and these tops are sort of infinitely recyclable. If they get a bit scuffed or damaged, they're super hard wearing, they can just be buffed out and still look beautiful. So Aotearoa High School replaced 200 desks. They've got plans for more, and that meant that 1,500 kilograms of plastic that would have been on its way to a landfill has been repurposed and made to look really pretty. And then I've just got my last example, I think, super quick. Just this points to some of the economic benefits of sustainable procurement. Another cleaning company we work with, or manufacturer rather, Advanced Nature, installed a bunch of solar panels in its Auckland manufacturing facility back in 2016. Now, it took about 7 years, I think, for that to sort of pay for itself. But now Advanced says that, more than half of the energy costs have been reduced, and it's had a huge impact on their carbon emissions as well. So really fantastic leadership from that business, and they've had an economic boost as well. I think, gosh, I've lost track of my slides. I think we're almost there. Tips to get started. Yeah, I'll just quickly race through these. So some of the tips to get started, and all of this is in our procurement toolkit as well, which it's a digital toolkit. It's on the website under resources, so you can go nuts on there and have a bit of a look. But identify eco labels that you trust and align with your organization's priorities. Jessica, again, the ocean-bound plastic one makes my stomach just twist, because the 50 kilometers from a water source is just insane. So if you do some research and figure out who you trust, that's always really good. And then you don't have to do everything at once. Start with some items that you purchase regularly or in bulk, and that goes if you're a business or if you're an individual, right? Like, you're never going to be able to just make a wholesale change at once. So start with those ones that you purchase regularly and you buy in bulk. If you're a business, make suppliers aware that you expect a certain level, and you can do that through agreements and policies and things like that. And the last one is track, measure, and talk about your impact. The more we talk about sustainable procurement, the more we make it sexy, the more of a thing it will become. And I think that might be me. It might just be a lovely little slide of there you go, our procurement toolkit for governments and businesses. Our government at the moment, 12.7 Sustainable Development Goal, it's around sustainable public procurement. New Zealand isn't tracking particularly well, and that is the fault of many governments over the years. We're encouraging them to take a look at our toolkit and give us a call, because we were conjured up by them 30 years ago, and we're here to help. So that's me. Thank you so much for the opportunity, guys.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much, both of you guys. It's been really insightful to see from that procurement lens what you can do as a consumer, but also as a business and where things go. Now, I'll just have a quiz through the Q&A, but while I'm doing that, I have a question of my own. And Jessica, tell me, what protections do NZ shoppers have when it comes to greenwashing?
So under the Fair Trading Act, a business, a service provider can't mislead you about what that product is offering. So they can't tell lies on the packaging. So if you buy something and you have any qualms, queries, you think perhaps it is false, misleading, then we would really urge you to let the Commerce Commission know, because they are the ones responsible. And if they're found to be greenwashing, then it could be a great test case for the Commerce Commission to take. So we will really urge people to be vigilant and know that there are people that you can complain to, and so please keep your eyes open. And it takes time, and I think that's the problem. So our research and investigation team, when they looked into the claims on those packages that I shared with you before, that took hours for somebody who's a really experienced researcher to unpick, and so many backwards and forwards and emails and phone calls. And so we're really concerned that for your average shopper, the odds are really stacked against them of being able to determine whether something is greenwashing or not. So we absolutely know it's not easy, but sadly right now it kind of is on the consumer to police this.
Thank you. I just got a follow-up question. What repercussions do companies face by making false greenwashing claims?
So if it was taken very seriously, so if the Commerce Commission did determine that the greenwashing has indeed occurred, then they could look to file charges with the court. So they would face penalties, but it would be a long process. And we think that right now, sadly is the wrong word, but most people do assume that checks and verifications are going on, and most of the time that might not always be the case. And so it's hard. It's really hard to make a really well-informed decision, because we're concerned that a lot of the information that you're being given isn't necessarily as truthful as it could be.
Very frustrating as a consumer to try to do the right thing and not be able to trust it.
Absolutely.
This leads me to my next question, and Laura, you might have an insight on this. So the Eco Choice label, and as you started at the start, you mentioned how it is voluntary, so it's not something that is mandated, hopefully yet in New Zealand, but hopefully we'll strive to do. Is the Eco Choice label something that consumers can shop around outside of a corporate environment?
Absolutely, they can. I think traditionally, because as I mentioned at the start, we're a charity, so we're not funded by government. We're completely independent. So we have traditionally had quite a strong focus on the B2B area, in particular the building industry, I guess, because it was where we could make the most impact. But if you were looking, supermarket shelves, if you're looking for toilet paper or paper goods, if you're looking for cleaning products, personal hygiene products, you can absolutely see our mark, and we work with some brilliant businesses. As I've obviously mentioned, there's Will Enable, but EcoStore and others. Essity, which manufactures everything through their geothermal facility, which is really cool, and Cotton Soft as well, which we've worked really closely over the years to improve their sourcing and supply chains. So they can absolutely see that. And I would also just add that it's going to be really interesting, not just for our exporters, but for us in New Zealand to watch with open eyes. The reason that I'm not in New Zealand at the moment is I've been meeting with other eco labels and the EU Commission about the EU Green Claims Directive, and if we're talking penalties, they'll be whoppers if you get caught over there. So that's going to be, if you get caught under this directive or proposed directive at the moment, businesses are looking at 4% of their revenue, which is just absolutely huge. So would I like to see that in New Zealand? Yes, I would, and I'm sure Jessica would be with me on that. Sorry, Jessica, if I'm putting words in your mouth.
No, absolutely. We would 100% support that.
No, that sounds fantastic. Look, thank you both so much for your time. We have gone over, so I will keep it. But there is a question saying, what are some of the bad players to name and shame? I do believe that if you go to the consumer website, you are able to easily find the name those that rank lower. However,
yes,
let's not spend our time.
Yeah, consumer.org.nz/greenwashing, you'll find all of our campaign work in this area.
Great.
Support
But
the
let's
good guys,
spend
though. That's the best
I was
way
gonna
to
say,
combat it, though. Yeah.
exactly. Let's spend our time and energy looking at who's doing right and not who's doing wrong. So let's keep an eye for that. So let's go to the Eco Choice website and the consumer website to find out who's doing the right thing. Thank you so much for all our speakers and for all our attendees. Make the most of Procurement Monday, and I look forward to seeing you all here back again for Waste Free Tuesday tomorrow. Thank you so much. See you then.
Ngā mihi. Thank you, guys.